Did you know that we have channel memberships now? If you'd like to help support this channel, get some exclusive Kawabana emotes to use in the comments, as well as an exclusive badge by your name, click that join button now to find out more. Every bit of support really helps. Thanks guys. We've previously covered strange happenings during the development of the first and third Fatal Frame games in this series, but what about during arguably the most popular game of all, Fatal Frame 2? If you suspected that, yes, some weird things went down during the development of that game as well, then you'd be right. This week, we're heading back into Fatal Frame's apparently perpetually haunted development cycles to look at a few of the strange events that went down during the creation of the second game, all from the mouth of Shibata himself. First, an incident that didn't occur during development, but inspired one of the hauntings in-game. When Shibata was in high school, he recalled an incident where his grandfather came home one night bleeding from the head. It turned out that he'd fallen into a nearby river in the darkness because of his poor eyesight, and then crawled his way home. Naturally, the household fell into a panic, and it was up to Shibata to call an ambulance, while other family members treated his injured grandpa. That night, the house was quieter than usual. As he was doing schoolwork around 10 p.m, he heard a creak coming from the stairs. He figured someone was on their way to his younger sister's room, which was next door, and went back to his study. But again, something creaked. Again, and again. Whoever was coming up the stairs seemed to be approaching at a rate of 1 stair every 2 minutes. At that pace, maybe it was his grandmother. But the footsteps were so slow that a chill ran down his spine. Finally, they reached the top of the hall, but the footsteps moved past his sister's room and stopped in front of his door. Something was standing right on the other side. Whoever or whatever it was, they were silent, and it was definitely not his grandmother. He waited and waited for the door to open, and a shrill, piercing sound echoed in his ears. Unable to bear it any longer, he approached the door to check himself, but then he heard something right by his ear. Laughter. He jumped back in surprise and realized that what was on the other side most likely wasn't human. For the next 10 minutes, he stood facing the door, frozen, as the other presence also stood on the other side. The door was his only way out of the room, so he would have to open it at some point. He readied himself, grabbed the door, and flung it open. But nobody was there. He was met with nothing more than cold night air. He later asked his sister about it, but she hadn't heard anything, and he never found out what it was either. But the strange experience stuck with him, and so Shibata later included a similar, although slightly different, experience in Fatal Frame 2. Which part of the game do you think he was talking about? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Shibata also shared another experience that happened during development. He recalled waking up around 4 a.m. because something had strongly gripped his hand. The fingers were long and slender, although it was too dark to see clearly. He was lying on his side, with his hands near his chest, and whatever was grabbing him was doing so from above. He looked up, expecting to see an arm, but there was nothing there. Judging by the sensation of the grip, it was either a child or perhaps a woman, but the grip was unreasonably strong and cold, and the grip was getting tighter and tighter. He screamed out in pain, and then the grip relented, a sensation he could physically feel letting go. Yet there was nothing else in the room with him, and the sensation of the fingers on his hand remained until the next day. Then, his elbow on the same side started aching a few days later. This got worse and worse, and then moved up to his shoulder, lasting for about a week. whenever strange things happened, they always seemed to take place at 3:26 a.m. exactly. There was also a woman he saw around his apartment, once even lying face down on his bed. But as development of Fatal Frame 2 neared its conclusion, and he stopped going home so much, he saw her less and less. As all of this was going on, he also realized something. When he used Febreze in his room, he was less likely to meet with strange, supernatural occurrences, and so he surmised that they must have liked the stagnant air. This led to an amusing incident where Shibata wrote on the company whiteboard, "If you are troubled by ghosts, I recommend you use Febreze in your room." This led to the other devs calling him the man who exorcises ghosts with Febreze. They joked about adding Febreze into the next game, rather than a camera, to get rid of ghosts, and wondered if maybe these spirits just wanted to be included in the game as well, as Shibata had done with previous encounters. But his theory was dispelled when he returned home and continued using Febreze, yet the strange occurrences continued. In one instance, he woke up to find a woman in white floating about a meter above him. Her hair hung down towards his face as she stared at him, but what stood out most was her strange posture. She looked just like the dancing Haniwa, an old type of doll from the Kofun period where the arms are bent at right angles but one arm is facing up and the other is facing down, a bit like the cactus from the Final Fantasy series. The woman soon disappeared, but the strange experience also inspired another ghost that made it into the final game. Which one do you think he was talking about? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, this wasn't all, and I made a separate video entirely of some of the hauntings that happened during recording for Fatal Frame 2. I'll leave a link in the comments if you want to go and check that one out, either for the first time or to refresh your memory. But it seems that every time Shibata works on a new Fatal Frame game, strange things start to happen around him. Of course, whether they're just stories made to help promote a game that is literally about ghosts, or something that truly happened to him is up for debate. But I'm not here to tell you what to think. You can decide that for yourself. But what do you guys think? Do you recognize which ghosts he was talking about that made it in-game? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.